wanted to mention something about. There was a book that came out. I think it was originally published in 1944 by a gentleman called E.C. Knuth, and he wrote about the secret history of British financial power. The book was called The Empire of the City. But one thing that he details in there is just what you mentioned, that term, balance of power, that England, interestingly enough, joined with anybody they could in these years here prior to World War One, just to basically knock down whatever peg managed to rise above the rest, right? So they could join Russia one year to fight France, and then 2 years later they joined France to fight Russia or Germany, or supplant these with anybody. So it seems to be the book tries to give you this, gives you the impression that England did whatever they needed to do and join whoever they wanted to join with to make sure that they were in the seat of power. What would you say to that?
Yeah, they joined France in the war against the Crimean War against Russia for that very reason, to bring Russia down. And so they were ready to act against any accumulation of power which threatened or rivaled their own. And so when Germany emerged, the British, as I said, became very nervous, but also the French had their own reasons to want to go to war against Germany. They had lost, they declared war. I mean, France, did I say France? France was accustomed to lording it over the continent, not being defeated by some upstart like Prussia, and their pride was severely damaged by losing the Franco-Prussian War. And all they talked about in the military academies of France after the Franco-Prussian War was vengeance and getting even and restoring their pride. And then also recovering their two provinces of Alsace and Lorraine, which the Germans had taken from France. Now, they had cause to take those provinces because they had been taken from Germany by Louis XIV a few decades prior, and the population of Alsace and Lorraine was about 65% ethnic German-speaking Germans. So there was they weren't without cause to take those two colonies. Okay, now, so you've got, and I'm talking about what led to the World War One, and it wasn't Germany that started it. Also, the Russians had their own problems with Germany. The Russians were kind of bottled up in the Black Sea, and what they wanted for economic survival and growth was to have an outlet into the Mediterranean Sea through the Bosporus Straits there where Istanbul is. Now, Istanbul belonged to, it's Turkey and belonged to the Ottoman Empire, and Ottoman Empire at that time, before World War I, had an alliance with Germany, and Germany had a fleet in Istanbul, which kind of bottled up the Russians in the Black Sea, and the Russians wanted to, the only way they saw to obtain control of this area was to go to war with Germany. So you had Britain, who had their reasons to want to go to war with Germany. You had France, had their reasons, and you had Russia, and they had their reasons. All had just something to gain by going to war with Germany. Germany, on the other hand, had nothing to gain by a war, and every reason to stay out of a war, and indeed did not want a war. So this was bubbling and boiling, with Germany trying to avoid a war with the Allies, those three powers, intent on having a war.